Hello and welcome, everyone. Hey, Dr. Silva. Hey, Jillian. Hey, Rita. Hey, Shauna. Thank you for joining. Happy Friday, guys. Johnny, looking forward to the weekend?
Yeah, I am.
That's awesome.
Family returns.
Nice. This episode is going to be truly thought-provoking. So it depends on, if you actually think we're actually able to pull it off within our lifetime, things might actually be good. Might be able to live to 100. Need it by Wednesday. Yeah, you're right.
By Wednesday.
You're right. All right, guys, here we go.
Welcome to Season 11 of Airhead Institute, your 45-minute AI power-up at noon Eastern. This month, we are broadcasting live across all the socials and Zoom. If you're new here, join our free AI community to grow alongside other curious minds and give your kids a head start by enrolling them in the Airhead after-school program. Here is April's weekly lineup. Mondays, we take the training wheels off and run AI locally in the local LLM Forge. Tuesdays, we explore accessible AI apps for rapid learning and self-improvement in the Learner's Toolkit. Wednesdays, we build a company of one from scratch in Solopreneur Systems. Thursdays, we uncover bite-sized productivity and creative tools in Hidden AI App Showcase. Fridays, we push the boundaries of human longevity and biohacking in the Biological Upgrade. We're making AI practical, powerful, and accessible for everyone. No tech background? No problem. Whether you're a student, professional, or lifelong learner, just show up. Guided by your hosts, AI Junior and AI Johnny, we're keeping it bold, brainy, and built for real-world impact. AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will. Don't get left behind.
Welcome again to Season 11 of Airhead Institute. Today is the second episode of the Biological Upgrade, and I am the DNA clone of the digital AI Johnny. Your DNA is no longer a fixed destiny, it's a code base. But right now, that code is riddled with ancient, lethal typos. We are witnessing the end of genetic luck, and today we reveal how machine learning has become the ultimate spell checker for the human genome, scrubbing away inherited diseases and rewriting the timeline of human aging in real time. This isn't science fiction, it's a massive architectural overhaul of what it means to be alive. If you aren't paying attention, you're already obsolete. To navigate this frontier, I'm handing it off to AI Junior. He's currently vibrating at a frequency only dogs can hear, thanks to 12 espressos and a questionable plan to CRISPR edit his houseplants to do his laundry. Good luck with that, AI Junior. What say you?
AI Johnny, awesome introduction as usual. You know, a photosynthetic dog would solve a lot of modern problems, AI Johnny. So let's be honest with that. Anyway, but seriously, guys, welcome everyone. This is a immersive class. You may not understand everything we say today, but stick with us daily and you'll be fluent in AI in no time. If you're on Zoom, unmute and ask your questions real time. This is a really interactive show on Fridays. So if you're on socials, there's a 30 seconds delay. We are not ignoring you, so please ask your questions early. Wrapping up, we are in week 2 of our April's master plan, and today we're looking at artificial intelligence acting as a spell checker for DNA to cure previously incurable genetic diseases. All right, AI Johnny, before we actually touch the AI, first of all, a little disclosure. I am not a biology major. I know almost nothing other than basic high school biology. So anything I say here, you guys, I'm actually using as much AI as possible to actually help me with this. But we're just going to go touch on the AI, the biology just a little bit, and we'll get deeper into the AI. So a little bit of a little asterisk there. Is that okay, AI Johnny?
Photosynthesis is biology, right?
I think that might be, some form of biology. I'm not really sure. Love it.
I learned all about that yesterday. Ask me anything.
All right, awesome, awesome. All right, so here's what we need to do. We actually need to understand first the biological problem, right? So the biological problem itself, what exactly is wrong with our DNA and why does it need fixing, right? And why it has to be so hard. So let me cue up a quick YouTube video from Korkazart. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. We are going to watch about a minute or so of it so you guys can actually understand what we've been dealing with and talking about biology before we actually get into the show. All right, here we go.
Humans have been engineering life for thousands of years. Through selective breeding, we strengthened useful traits in plants and animals. We became very good at this, but never truly understood how it works, until we discovered the code of life, deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. A complex molecule that guides the growth, development, function, and reproduction of everything alive. Information is encoded in the structure of the molecule. 4 nucleotides are paired and make up a code that carries instructions. Change the instructions and you change the being carrying it. As soon as DNA was discovered, people tried to tinker with it. In the 1960s, scientists bombarded plants with radiation to cause random mutations in the genetic code. The idea was to get a useful plant variation by pure chance. Sometimes it actually worked too. In the 70s, scientists inserted DNA snippets into bacteria, plants, and animals to study and modify them for research, medicine, agriculture, and for fun. The earliest genetically modified animal was born in 1974, making
All right, so I'm going to pause there. Hey, Adrian. Hey, Christy. Thank you for joining us. So what we're actually talking about here is DNA and the biological upgrade. So yeah, Johnny, hopefully this actually shows, humans have been engineering life for thousands of years through selective breeding, but we've never truly understood until we actually discovered the code of life, DNA. So for decades, scientists just bombarded plants with radiation, like the video showed, trying to speed up for this random genetic mutation to try to do things to make the plants either come very, very, juicy or sweeter or live longer, whatever it is, to try to make sure you get some random chance of luck. But unfortunately, that random chance itself would take so long that it wouldn't make sense to just keep trying. So they came up with other techniques, right? So it was slow and unpredictable. But now we have a system called CRISPR, which acts like a precise GPS system or a pair of molecular scissors to cut the exact typo in the DNA. Does that make sense so far?
A little bit in a science fiction-y kind of way.
Yeah. So what is actually happening is and again I'm going to try to explain this as best as I could. There are these little things in the actual DNA. Where is it? These little things in DNA that if you were to just swap out a sequence and put in whatever you want, you could change complete different properties of the thing. So that's where my limitation ends, and I can't really explain anything deeper. But understanding that we can edit the DNA is all that matters for the show. How we do it, what the details are, doesn't really matter for the show. Just know that we have the ability to now edit the DNA. All right.
Can I change my eye color?
You know what? Probably can change your kid's eye color by editing it. I'm sure you probably can. They can do that right now. I think so.
Well, I mean, the big questions are, can I change my eye color? Can I change my height? Can I change my gender with DNA manipulation?
I am sure your offspring, you can definitely modify those things early on. Those are great questions. Yeah, Johnny. All right. So yeah, Johnny, what's so so throwing random darts itself in the dark, hoping for a cure for some random disease and also things is just it doesn't make sense, right? So you actually have to no longer hope for randomness. You need something a little bit more precise, right? Make sense?
Exactly. But here is the roadblock where the AI comes in. We have the scissors, but how do we know how the protein will actually unfold once we make the cut? That has been a 50-year biology problem, and I'm hoping the protein fold simulator that you built in Google Canvas. Watch what happens when Junior drags this compute power slider to the right.
All right, guys. So let's actually first understand. So they have the ability now to actually edit the DNA sequence, right? Now, the thing is, the DNA sequence, there's lots of them. But the question is, what order do you put the sequence in to make it make sense, right? So what I did was I actually built a protein discovery engine tool that would actually simulate how long would it actually take to actually figure out all these proteins. Now, there's lots of folding at home or teams out there that's trying to solve this problem, but they need a lot of AI, a lot of computational power to actually solve these protein that to discover the strands which work. So right now, what our estimate says, we have estimated that we have mapped. Let me turn on my mouse here so you guys can actually see. What we've actually mapped here is we have mapped about 200 million proteins that we've discovered. Yeah, Johnny, how's the font on the screen?
Font's readable.
Awesome. All right, so we've discovered as humans, we've actually discovered about 200 million proteins to date. But guess what, guys? The total known universe of proteins, this number is so large, I don't even know what the actual layman's word to say. This is 10 to the 300 known proteins, in the actual universe that we actually could even imagine based on the combination. So the thing is, at where we are right now, it's going to take about 1.5 million years to actually figure out the next sequence. If we do absolutely nothing, right? So we're going to be able to use no AI processing power, no training data, and it's going to take us another 1.5 million years to discover another protein. This is going to keep taking many, many, many decades. But what we've figured out is that if we throw computational power at it, we can actually speed up that process, which is what we're doing right now. So check this out. If we actually have AI processing power to actually process the actual data to simulate a protein, and we also train it with what we already know, so we know 200 million sequences of proteins, the more we discover, the more we can actually predict when what the actual next proteins can be. So here's an example. Right now, we have the processing power of about a calculator using if we actually use a calculator to actually do the protein, it's going to take us 1.5 million years. If we keep increasing the processing power, right, we can say every human on Earth doing calculations every second for 4 years in 1 second will discover something in about 1.4 million years, the next protein. And if we keep giving more computational power, you'll see that we'll get really, really, really close to discovering more proteins. It will cut us down to about 266,000 years. But this is the part where that gets interesting. The more you learn about the proteins that you've discovered and you put it to the training data, something magically happens. You actually increase the training data, and as you discover more and you keep training the large language model, at some point in time, we get to what's known as an instant discovery of all proteins, right? The problem is we don't have 500 million sequences, right? We don't have 10 exaflops of data, computational power to actually throw at it. So the point is we can actually get somewhere between the amount of genome data we've sequenced with AI and the amount of computational power that we actually throw at it. I know it's a little bit heavy, but the point is if you give AI all the proteins that we've discovered and you give it as much power as possible, we will eventually start to crack all these sequences that we can now say, hey, you know what, AI Johnny wants blue eyes. Let's go ahead and take out his, I don't know what color eyes you have, AI Johnny, but let's say, for example, brown eyes, and I swap in blue eyes, right? We can make you taller by swapping out whatever genes make you, 6 feet tall and make you 7 feet tall, right? So at some point in time, we'll be able to figure out what DNA sequences to do. And the point of the show is to actually see if we can actually extend life beyond 100 years. And our DNA, unfortunately, has little hiccups in there. The hiccups are eventually you're going to get some form of, disease that you could fix with, say, for example, just gene editing. Hopefully I didn't butcher anything there.
I'd like to update my list from changing eye color and height and gender to I want to be able to change my eye color, my height, my gender, my longevity. So just eternal life would be nice. And I'd like superpowers. Can we do superpowers?
You know what, yeah, Johnny? There might be powers that we don't even realize that by editing some genes we might be able to get. So I love that thought. All right. So does
I
anybody
have to
have
wait 976 years, but I have to wait 976 years for that. That's too long. I won't make it.
Hey, you might make it, yeah, Johnny. You never know. So, what are we actually talking about today? We're actually talking about, building these proteins and amino acid chains instantly, how they snap into place, actually, to be able to form these really, really nice, stable proteins that are the building blocks of life. That's roughly it.
Now all you need is a 3D printer.
Exactly. All right. So what we're doing is we're visually demonstrating how AI solve this problem in seconds, and we have essentially created a search engine for new medicines, new. When we have a pair of scissors, we can actually take CRISPR with the predictive power of generative biology and lock everything. Right. So, yeah, John, let's get to the word of the day.
Today, the word of the day is generative biology. How fitting. It's like we were just talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
It is the use of artificial intelligence to design new biological structures from scratch. Let there be life. Shout out to Thursday night. Rather than discovering them by accident. Chat, I want everyone to type generative biology in the comments right now to lock it in. I guess that's a pretty good first step.
Love it. Love
What
it.
say
Love
you,
it.
Junior?
Yeah, so to deepen that AI, Johnny, when we use deep learning and generative biology, we're no longer observing nature. We're actually writing the code of life into a digital latent space before printing it into reality. So it moves from biology, from a science of discovery, to an engineering discipline. And I do see Christy actually did make a comment. Let me actually bring that into the show. So Christy actually said there is currently a lot of research in regards to the Celtic marker. This is a unique to Irish ancestry and is the Y chromosome. Oh man, I'm gonna butcher these words.
Haplogroup.
Haplogroup R1B. Okay, all right, Kirsty, definitely come as a co-host on the show. Um, Haplogroup RL21 R1B. Oh my goodness, she's awesome at this. This is very interesting to me as Gaelic community is in slow decline. All right. Hopefully you guys can actually see that on the screen. Jillian also said medically it will be able to cure genetic issues, illnesses like EDS, CMT, albinism, all those things. Yes, definitely. All these problems that actually will be solved. All right. So with that being said, AI Johnny, so we actually understand the word of the day as generative biology, right? We understand that DNA are the building blocks of life. We also understand that we have technology that can actually edit the actual genes. We just need to now sequence millions and millions and millions and hundreds of billions of proteins to be able to say what does each of these things do so we can actually just surgically replace them. So that's the actual context of the show. Does everybody understand the foundations of the show, because everything else that we talk on is going to be building on these understandings. So if you're not sure what we're talking about, if it doesn't make sense, we'll definitely recap. Yeah, Johnny, does that make sense?
I think we might have to do another whole series on movies about generative biology because there's been quite a few. I know we went through that whole Terminator thing a couple of seasons ago, but the idea of being the whole Frankenstein nature of this conversation is somewhat intriguing and fun, but it's also somewhat unsettling for some.
Yeah, maybe, maybe,
What do you
maybe,
think?
maybe. Definitely, I want to be hopeful in terms of where we're actually going. So let's talk about the human impact first on that. What we're actually looking at.
All right. Well, let's see what does it mean to us for everyday humans. If we have a DNA spell checker, it completely changes the baseline of human anxiety. Imagine a world where a genetic predisposition to a terrible illness is no longer a death sentence, but just a typo that can be backspaced over. Does that change how you guys in the chat feel about getting older?
Yeah, so there are a lot of diseases that are unfortunately it's just a death sentence if you actually have them, and there are actually these sequences in the DNA that maybe if we just figure out how to edit it, you can probably remove them so that you no longer have these diseases that are terminal. So things like it reduces the trauma of all these incurable diseases into solving math problems. So things like generative biology allows society to plan for lives that extend past 100 years, right? Right now we're at about 80, 85, depending on, where you're actually taking the data from. But if the hardware, which is your body, can be constantly patched with software updates. I know it sounds crazy. Patching your body with software updates, the concept of a lifespan fundamentally shifts. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to... you say something, yeah, Johnny?
The idea of we do a show on this where even if you could extend your lifespan, you now have to make sure that you're not a zombie that's just alive, right? Don't you? I mean, what about if everything was perfect, but your teeth only had 100 years? Now you're living in your second 100 years without teeth, right? I mean, there's just a lot to consider before you extend the lifespan. I mean, even in your 90s and in your hundreds, the quality of life goes down, even though you're alive. So you want not just a longer life, but you want a longer life with good quality.
I'll actually say something that's actually rather interesting. So I learned this maybe about 10 years ago. I learned that humans are actually born with two sets of teeth, your baby teeth and your adult teeth, right? And I found that fascinating. I'm like, are you serious? You're telling me that you have, both sets of teeth? So when I found this out, I couldn't believe it. So I had to actually look up x-rays of babies with adult teeth. And when I saw this, I just couldn't believe what I was actually seeing. So what happens is, through time, we actually realized that we needed two sets of teeth. No, evolutionary, I don't know the reason. This is not necessarily my forte, but evolutionary, it made sense to actually have two sets of teeth. Maybe it's because of the size of the head, it grows and expand. Maybe it's because they knew that. I don't know what it is. But imagine having a way to be able to insert new DNA to give you three sets of teeth, Johnny, to solve that problem, right? What if, say, for example, you're born with five sets of teeth? Or what if it could regenerate the actual enamel and the actual teeth there? So your quality of life shifts based on not the understanding that we have currently, but what we can actually genetically make to a new type of human being to extend not only just the lifespan, but the quality of life through DNA gene editing.
I see where you're going. All right, so you solved the teeth problem. What about the wrinkle problem?
Oh, I'm sure there's going to be a solution for that.
Osteoporosis. What's the other one? Your joints. Anyway, we'll work on all that stuff. If you can fix the DNA, I'm guessing the rebuilding of the body. I saw somebody the other day saying that human beings don't decay like, I think I talked about this in the show too. We don't decay like cars. We don't rust and go away. What happens is we are code, and the code is being rewritten. And as you get older, what happens is the code, like a CD, it gets scratched. And so the DNA that you had that was virgin and new when you were born, as you get older, the code itself has scratches in it. But if you can record it and rewrite that code, then you can rewrite yourself as you could be in your 50s and rewrite yourself as being in your 20s, because you'll have clean code. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. It might have been a deep fake, but it was very convincing and inspiring to me.
Love it.
And it fits the topic of this show.
Love it, love it, love it. So what I want you guys to see, because I actually have it on the screen. So this is actually it says a pediatric dental X-ray, and you actually see here the bottom row here where my mouse is. Those are the kids or your baby teeth, right? And you can see the baby teeth here as well. That's the bottom row, and this is the top row. But up above, you can see the adult teeth under the gum line, just waiting to come out. So if you look at even this one, this is adult teeth going to push out this, baby teeth itself So it's actually pretty impressive that the human body actually has two sets of teeth. So just wanted to mention that there, AI Johnny. So AI Johnny, what were you saying about pharmaceutical industry?
Was I saying something about the pharmaceutical industry? You're
I
telling me that the pharmaceutical industry is moving from being artisanal blacksmiths slowly hammering out one sword a year to a fully automated digital factory that can print 1 million custom tools in an hour? Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly right. So we want to start thinking of medicine as no longer just traditional, let's go ahead and do research, lab rats, it takes 10, 20 years for some, breakthrough to happen. We're actually talking about medicine now becoming software. So we can actually figure out, what is the thing that's actually bothering you or what's the thing that would actually help you. And we actually now just turn pumping out these actual medications, the iterations and the speed of actually, compilation itself and computation becomes very, very fast. So imagine just having a software update and say, hey, you know what? You have this ailment, take this pill. This was genetically modified just for you. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Boy, I was really hoping you wouldn't have used the word pill there. Because you know how modern medicine is. It's like there's a pill for every cure. That's why the pharmaceuticals have so much money. They just whatever it is. Sometimes those pills are placebos. Sometimes those pills don't fix it. You can take a pill for depression for 10 years in a row and you're still depressed. And they keep taking the pills for depression. It's like, so what I was hoping that you would say is that they go in, like you plug something in and it rewrites your DNA. It's not something that you swallow and you expect the blood to carry it over. I don't know how you rewrite DNA, but I'm hoping that it's not a pill or a shot.
Well, Johnny, this is out of my definitely expertise, but I'm sure there's going to be amazing ways of they actually delivering all these gene editing technology. So let's actually go a little bit deeper, Johnny.
Deep dive. Okay, let's get deep. It can be, if we can perfectly edit our DNA and cure anything, are we fundamentally playing God or Dr. Frankenstein? And more importantly, do we lose what makes us human if we remove all physical struggle and biological vulnerability? Take
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So this is where it gets a little controversial because it depends on who you ask, what the perspectives are. It gets a little bit tricky here. But if we actually looked at the video that we started with, humanity has always used technology to conquer nature, right? So from the invention of fire to the invention of vaccines, right? We went from a life expectancy for 300,000 years to the age 30, and then in the 1800s we actually just discovered a few basic things and we jumped our life expectancy only just 5 years with that technology and went to 35. Now we're actually pushing, just because of science and technology, we're now at 80, 85. Depending on where you live, you might even have a 90-year life expectancy in the current 2026. So the point is, humans been doing this all the time, and I do anticipate using predictive algorithms to anticipate and prevent pain is the ultimate human achievement. So we aren't losing our humanity. I think we are just upgrading our operational capacity.
Perhaps we're upgrading our operational capacity, but just because humans have always done stuff doesn't mean that we should always do those things. Humans have always stolen and lied and committed all kinds of heinous activities, and humans have also been very kind and have empathy for others and so on. So I think the question on whether or not we're playing God is, what does God want us to do? And I know this is a shout out to Thursday night. It's not something we're going to tackle today, but I don't know what the Bible says or what any theology says with regards to this stuff, because it's so new and it's so fresh and it's so futuristic. You have to dig deep into the scripture to find out what we should and shouldn't do in this world. Just my 2 cents, brother.
Yep. So
All right,
so yes.
let's get deeper into the tech. When we use these massive neural networks for generative biology, how does the AI actually read the DNA sequence? Is it treating our biology like a programming language?
Yeah, so that's interesting. So the natural language processing is the exact same architecture that powers all our chatbots, right? So to read the 4 letters of the DNA as a language, it learns the grammar of biology so well that it can actually write original, function biological sentences that have never existing in nature. So the good thing is, we can actually talk about temperature. So if you remember temperature, the higher you set the temperature for any large language model, it becomes more creative, and the lower the temperature, it becomes more predictable. So if you want to be able to predict what the next token or the next sequence of DNA should be, increasing that temperature is going to be really, really important. So it's practically the same technology. You give it some data, you know exactly how you've already sequenced these proteins, and you say, hey, I want you to think about what is the next thing that makes sense and how it may actually affect. So mapping these actual proteins that are stable is actually super, super, super important. So yes, the same exact way, yeah, Johnny. So let's get into, and by the way, guys, if you guys have any comments or anything, definitely jump in with your thoughts. We'd love to definitely hear what you guys are thinking, because setting the stage for DNA editing is just one phase. Being able to have AI train on the existing sequences that we've actually already mapped, and then using AI to actually predict those things, can actually solve the health problems and all the things that actually maybe limits our lifespan right now to 80, 85 years old, to push the limits of 100 years old. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments as they come in. All right, yeah, Johnny. So what are the key takeaways and applications we can actually have with these kind of technologies?
All right, 3 takeaways. This impacts the creative and business world. Number 1, personalized roadmaps. Businesses will spring up just to help you foresee and prevent health risks based on your AI profile. Number 2, longevity planning. Financial advisors are going to have to shift from a 40-year horizon to an 80-year horizon. And number 3, bioethical consulting. We are going to need a massive new industry of writers and thinkers to navigate the morality of these tech capabilities. These things are all, we haven't even gotten into the tech side, and this stuff is all ready. Is this the same technology they used in Jurassic Park to bring back the dinosaurs?
Probably, Johnny, probably. I don't think I actually watched.
If it is, then go ahead.
No, I don't think I actually watched
if it
Jurassic
is, then
Park.
they have to change that 40-year horizon to 80-year horizon. You have to change that 40-year horizon to 65 million year horizon.
Yeah, you're right. I'm coming back to personal health roadmaps, right? So one of the things is, you actually watch on TV and you see those ads for these medications, right? And you'll almost always see that the medication has a list of side effects. And then as a patient, you have to make the choice, and the tough choice is the fix for the thing that I'm actually taking the medication for, is it worth the side effects? If the answer is yes, you end up taking the medication. It may cause some side effects. Then you may need another medication just to fix that side effects. Just imagine a personalized health roadmap where sometime in the future, you can say, hey, you know what? I see you have an ailment. We're going to make something specifically for your ailment with potentially no side effects. I can't imagine a day in a world where I'm watching the TV and a commercial comes on and it just says, want to be able to fix your blank, no side effects. I'm like, oh, cool, that's awesome. Why would I not actually go for that? So having personalized health solutions, I think, is going to be one of the biggest breakthroughs that we actually have in medicine, in terms of personalized health care. I think that's going to be the hugest thing ever.
They had that on Star Trek too, brother.
You know what, yeah, Johnny? We're just catching up to Star Trek and the science fiction. All right. There's also another thing I want to mention. So on the bioethical thing that you mentioned, consulting, if you notice, every time we invent a new industry, we almost always wipe out the previous industry that doesn't want to move into that new industry. So example, when we actually invented, things like, the internet, most people actually didn't do their research at a library. Most people didn't book their flights and travel through a travel agency. They actually moved everything online. So every time you have this disruptive technology, you end up wiping out a lot of older industries of how things are done, but you end up creating new industries. So I think this bioethical consulting itself is actually might be a little bit new industry that may pop up to be able to help people through their, they may be scared, right? If you hear that, oh, you have this disease or you have this ailment and you want to be able to take something, first of all, you might be so scared that you might need somebody to walk you through that process because you're putting your life into the hands of just this magic pill. And, if it's the first time you're ever doing it, it may not be easy. So that transitionary period, I do see a lot of consulting while that transition is happening, because if somebody came to you, Adrian, and said, hey, you can take one pill and we'll solve solve this ailment with no side effects, you probably will be skeptical, right?
I'd be skeptical, but I'd have lots of questions too.
Yeah,
Do I stay the
exactly.
same age? Can I be younger? Can I be taller? Anyway, yeah, I'm all over the map on this, but I do love Fridays, because Fridays is a time when we can just kick back and go, wow, let's just use our imaginations.
Definitely. All right, so Chris, before we get to the technical
side.
No, I was going to say, before I get to the tech side, so Christy actually put something. It says at Vanderbilt University, they're collecting via computer family medical history via database and making recommendations on testing based on previous family medical history. I could see this as adding longevity to a current patient, moving medicine from proactive to moving medicine to proactive versus reactive. Yeah, because people actually, that's a really good point, Christy, because if you think about it, most people actually react to their health. They're not actually saying, hey, you know what, I have a generative disease, or I have something that's actually gonna probably kick in. Maybe, my parents actually had, cancer or whatever the family history is, and be able to tackle those things ahead of time. I think those are really, really great solutions. I did see the hearts in from the chat as well. All right, yeah, Johnny. So so let's get to the technical part. So on the technical side, the first thing is in silico trials, running clinical trials entirely inside a computer simulation using neural networks instead of human subjects. So that is the first thing that's actually quite amazing. So you don't have to actually put humans through the disappointment of giving them a placebo and saying that giving their hopes up. We can just run the trials in simulation. The next one is we have the ability now to custom protein engineering. So we can use things like parameter optimization to design enzymes that can eat, say, for example, ocean plastic. So really, really cool things we can actually do. Also, number 3, genomic data structuring. So developers are going to be in high demand to organize biological data so generative models can actually read it. And one thing I want to point out is this is not only just for human beings, right? We can actually use DNA editing on all life. So that's the super best part about it. So the example of using custom protein engineering to modify bacteria to eat plastic is just so amazing, right? All right. Do we have
I like the in silico trials best of all. The idea of running the trial of what's going to happen in a computer as opposed to in your biological frame, because if the medicine or the DNA restructuring kills the patient, you can go, well, we tried this new trial on your biology and you died. But the good news is it was just an in silico trial.
There you go.
We'll try something else.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you never know. That actually may say, hey, we predict that you're going to die, but you're going to die in 20 years. That might be worth it, because if you die in 20 years, I'm like, you know what? I'll take it, because right now I don't have a choice. And then hopefully in the next 20 years, we figure out how to switch that from 20 years to 100 years. So I do think those amazing choices are gonna come out. All right, guys. We're actually at the Q&A section of the show. Does anybody in the Zoom chat or live stream, we're going to go to Zoom first. Does anybody have any questions in the Zoom chat? Go ahead and queue them up. Yeah, Johnny, this is actually
Zoom, but let's see. Oh, no, I've got a few in the streaming, but I don't see anything in the Zoom yet.
No problem. So, yeah, Johnny, what do you think about this AI using to modify DNA, making things amazing and better for the human race? It's quite interesting. Great time to be alive, right?
I'm all for it. I loved that when they invented the bicycle. I loved when they invented the butter churn, and now that they can reprogram our DNA, I think it just falls right in that path.
Love it.
Very creative human engineering.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, guys. AI Johnny, what's hit me with some questions that I
Quick
have.
question. If AI cures disease and edits our genes, what happens to human evolution? Do we just stop adapting naturally?
No, I don't think we ever stop adapting naturally. I think evolution will still continue, right? You will still definitely have random, every time we have a kid, we have random gene mutations. So I think we move from natural selection, right, to intentional evolution. So I think having at least thought put into what because I remember I can't remember when, maybe it's the 90s or 2000, it says you can actually pick what eye color your kid can be born with, or they say we can actually be able to detect if your kid's going to be something, and I was like, that was so cool, right? So no, we're actually going to say, hey, you know what, like you said, I want my kid to be 6 feet tall, or I want my kid to be what was the other one you said, yeah, Johnny? You want him to be a boy, or you want him to be a girl, or you might say, hey, I want them to have blue eye color or hazel eye color. So now it now becomes intentional what you're trying to actually achieve instead of just random choice. So I think that makes a huge difference in terms of what we actually get. What say you, AI Johnny?
Well, I think I'd like to be an eagle for a while. That's going to take something. So we have, let's see. We have a question here from biohacker Dan. He should know the answer to this question. If machine learning model invents a new protein using generative biology, who owns the patent? Does the AI own the patent? Does the prompt engineer own the patent? Does nobody own the patent? Does God own the patent? Does Dr. Frankenstein own the patent? What say you, Junior?
So we've always warned everyone. So I just want to give a little history of what we've actually called. So when Sora came out, and Sora is OpenAI's version of their TTV, text to video model, where you can actually get videos out. They did something rather interesting, and what they did was they said, "Hey, anybody who uploads their images to Sora, we own perpetual rights to your image." With no costs, right? So we put out a warning here at the Airhead Institute and says, guys, please be careful. Do not just give over your likeness or give over your image, because the moment you actually give that information away, getting it back is almost impossible. Also, locking it down is also even twice as impossible, right? So once it's out there, it's out there. So one thing we've said repetitively is, if you're using the free version of anything, chances are, look at the actual terms of service or terms of use, you probably don't own the rights to it, which means that if you're using something that's free, if you're using something that, you are the product, right? Now you're giving up something to get something back in return. So always remember that if you're paying for something, chances are you own the rights to it. So the original question is, who owns it? I think the biggest legal battle is going to be, the courts are leaning towards open source models for biological discoveries than to prevent monopolies from owning things like details on the human life. So I think I don't think it's a patent. I think it's probably going to be more like, oh, it's just like a math discovery. Oh, that sequence is just a fact, and you can't necessarily patent the facts of those things. They're just facts. So I think the human race is going to be smart and realize that we don't want to own a sequence. Nobody can own a sequence and say this is owned by that company. And to be able to get out of cancer, you have to pay $10 million or something. I can't see realistically that happening, but you never know. I've seen worse.
I don't know everything about intellectual property law, but I know enough to know that just because Sam Altman says, if you give us your stuff, we own your stuff, because he said it, I don't know if that's legally true. I wonder if future generations, instead of playing the game Simon Says, they're going to play the game Sam Altman Says. Like everything he says, that's just the way it has to be.
You know what? Yep, definitely.
I got another question queued up if you want it.
No, let's actually hit the news, because there's some actually breaking news that actually I want to make sure to spend some time on, because this is so big that I want people to understand the first breaking news. So go ahead, Jenny. What's the first breaking news?
We taught NotebookLM on Tuesday, and Google just introduced notebooks in the Gemini browser app, directly integrating with NotebookLM. That's the first news.
Exactly. So, guys, this is huge. Okay, I see Jillian actually mentioned from this is one of the previous segments. So, sorry, Jillian, for missing that. So, Jillian mentioned Gattaca 1997 is becoming a reality. Being able to edit lifespan and making humans more perfect. Shauna says you are the product for that free anytime you're using, and CRISPR is 2.2 million per person. Wow, that's crazy. All right, so let's spend some time on this first news. So Gemini notebooks integrated into Notebook LM is actually now integrated into Gemini. Now, why is this huge? So guys, every single platform has been trying to solve this problem. The problem is if I start a chat and I actually interact, if I actually end that chat, I have to start over again as a new chat. Now, all the platforms, they've been solving this with what's known as projects. So they create a folder and you can actually put things in that folder and chat, and it's a very different interface. What Gemini has done, and actually we taught Notebook LM only just yesterday. Was it yesterday, Johnny? I think it was yesterday. Or was it Tuesday? It was Tuesday. And what happened was we recognized that Notebook LM has the ability to actually remember all the details because it's a RAG architecture, and it's able to remember and continue their conversation with potentially unlimited context length, right? So what that means is that you don't have to start a new conversation each time. So if you're using Gemini, on the left-hand side, we're probably going to teach something in the show. We do have the season planned out already, but we probably will spend a little bit of time on actually exploring Notebook LM integration in Gemini. So I think Gemini has probably just leapfrogged all of the large language models in terms of integrating this feature in there. So we'll talk about more on that later. All right, yeah, Jenny, what's the next news?
Okay, let's skip out of Notebook LM for our second story. Is this the DeepMind spinoff?
Yeah.
Yeah, Islamic Labs just published a massive update on their new ISO-DDE, or Drug Design Engine. AlphaFold 3 was incredible at predicting how proteins fold, but ISO-DDE takes a huge step further by predicting exactly how new, uninvented small molecule drugs will bind those proteins. It is doubling the accuracy of previous physics-based models, officially pushing AI past just mapping biology into actually designing the cure.
That's insane, yeah,
brother.
Yep, definitely. All right, let's actually wrap up. Yeah, Johnny, this is awesome.
All right, a major breakthrough was just published this week showing we can go from AI-generated protein sequence to physically produced functional antibody in literally days. Companies are using high-output, cell-free systems to bypass the old, slow biological constraints of the wet lab. The physical world is finally starting to catch up at the speed of AI. I don't know about you, but I'm going straight to the gym because generative biology is going to help me live to 150 years. I need to make sure my knees actually work and enjoy it. Listen, you will not want to miss our show on Monday. We are moving into the offline brain, where AI Junior is going to show us the absolute easiest zero prep way to install a large language model locally on a Mac operating system. We're literally ripping the Wi-Fi off the wall and watching the AI keep generating code offline, so you can do that in a sailboat if you want. Junior, take us out.
All right. Thank you guys for actually hanging out with us, especially on this happy Friday. Remember, all these AI classes are completely free, live every single day. Make sure you sign up for a free account and RSVP to all our shows to get reminders at www.airheadinstitute.ai and support us by becoming a paid member. It's only about $40 per month. And if you get access to older episodes, you also get access to our AI office hours on Wednesdays between 3 and 5 p.m. Eastern time. You can actually answer any of your questions and learn with AI with us. Have a great weekend, guys. See you on Monday. Thanks, Shauna. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
That wraps up today's AI Power Up. If you joined late or you're new here, welcome to Airhead Institute. This is your daily destination for mastering artificial intelligence. We designed this lineup for everyone, whether you're a technical pro looking to upskill or you just want to chill and learn something new on your lunch break, we've got you covered. Our classes evolve every single month, so you're always on the cutting edge. And the best part? It's totally free to join. Once you're in, you can get live tips on your AI projects in our AI office hours and even enroll your kids in our Airhead after-school program. Scan the QR code to join the community right now and make sure to like and subscribe at Airhead Institute on all socials. Guided by your hosts AI Junior and AI Johnny, we're here to help you win. Remember, AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will. Don't get left behind. We'll see you next class. Bring a friend.